Hi, I'd like to welcome everyone. We're going to be doing two meetings this evening. One to catch up from last week, which will be the City Council meeting, followed soon after, immediately afterwards, by our workshop meeting. So can we all stand for a Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we'll do a roll call. We have Molly is here, Justice is here, Paloma, Ren, Dan, Chris White is also here, and Drew, representing Keenan Bean, is also here, and not for long. And the mayor will be joining us remotely.
He's on.
He's on, and he's out of state. There's no one else on Zoom or anything like that? Okay.
We will have Judd Siebert from Keenan Bean on.
Okay.
I don't see him on the call yet.
He'll be signing in a little later.
Okay, great.
He's on.
We'll start first.
And there's the mayor.
There's the mayor. We're going to start first with our community segment. We're going to be swearing in two new firefighters for the city of Beacon, which we're very proud and happy to have. Does Lee need to?
Lee needs to deputize you.
He needs to. So, Lee, could you step up and give me the authority to?
Yep. Apparently, because I'm attending remote, I'm physically there where I'm there. But I'm told, according to our city attorney, that I just have to say, I hereby authorize you, George, to swear in these fine individuals as employees. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Shall we?
All right.
Well, I think the chief will present the two candidates.
Thank you very much. The city of Beacon had two openings for career firefighters. I'm very happy to say we got them processed quick enough to meet a recruit class that starts Monday for 14 weeks. They will be in Utica, away from their family, for this class. So tonight we have two individuals that have passed all the tests, and their first names are both Kevin, believe it or not, but they're individuals that meet our requirements that we need. Both of our Kevins, though, first is Kevin Powell and Kevin Herbst. Both of them have served in the military, in the Army. Both of them have EMT. Both of them have many degrees in fire science that we need to bring forward. So Kevin Powell was a volunteer, started a volunteer with the New Hamburg Fire Department and the Wappingers Fire Department. And Kevin Herbst is a volunteer with the Beekman Fire Department. And I thank you for your support in this hiring process.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
If you think you guys are nervous, it's the first time I've ever done this, so give me.
Just don't swear I'm in as police officer.
Okay, we'll start first with, where are the names? Oh, that's true. Okay, Kevin Powell will be first, okay? Could you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Kevin Powell, do solemnly swear
I, Kevin Powell, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duty of City of Beacon firefighter.
and I will faithfully discharge the duty of the City of Beacon firefighter.
Okay? Congratulations. Thank you very much. Ready? All right. I, Kevin Herbert, do solemnly swear
I, Kevin Herbst, do solemnly swear
Herbst, that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the City of Beacon firefighter.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a Beacon firefighter.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Do we,
George,
do they sign?
Can we do a quick photo? Yeah, they can sign and then
Okay.
a quick photo with the families.
Sure. Okay, Kevin Powell, could you sign this, please? Thank you. Kevin Herbst? Yep. Yep. You want me on? Yeah.
These are only a buck a piece, Jeff. Thank you. Nice job. And I do want to just say before Kevin Glinsky leaves, we wish Kevin Glinsky the best on his new position. We lost one Kevin, but we gained two. So thank you, Kevin. Nice job. We did,
How many more Kevins are there?
in that department, I think that's it.
Okay, next we'll do the public comment. You have the opportunity during this time to speak anyone can speak for up to 3 minutes about anything they'd like to speak about. We don't have a public hearing.
You do have a public
We do have a
hearing
public-
on
oh,
the
yes, we do.
proposed Tompkins
Right, so if you
terrace pilot.
If you choose to speak about the Tompkins Terrace pilot program, please wait for that public hearing. So we have 2 people signed up. First will be Teresa Kraft.
Good evening. I am adamantly opposed to the total electrification of the city of Beacon based on the current state of the New York power grid and the lack of protections built into the process across the country and to our current and long-term residents to this city. I do not believe that the city of Beacon has to rush into taking a stand to be one of the first as a trendsetter. I think that has a way of backfiring. If you read your draft for Local Law Number 1 of 2023 to create Chapter 106, Article 5 of the Energy Conservation Code of the City of Beacon to require the electrification of new residential and commercial buildings, titled as your new local law, then right off the bat, everything in your new code talks about new construction and major renovations of residential and commercial buildings. It's like reading 2 different documents rolled into one. Please put on the brakes and get this right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I can't quite read it. I believe it's Kelly Campbell. Yep, thank you, Kelly.
Sorry, my handwriting is horrible.
Oh, it looks like a
Good
pen.
evening, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak. First, I'd like to applaud you for being so progressive in thought. I appreciate all that you do. However, I think that the council needs to take a step back and do more research before voting tonight on the electrification of Beacon. Has Central Hudson been consulted to see if their current system can accommodate the increase in demand? Have upgrades to their systems been outlined? Has pricing been discussed? I fear we are heading down a road that could turn Central Hudson into a monopoly and allow them to charge whatever they choose, thus making it financially difficult for residents to heat and illuminate their homes. Has the state outlined any incentives or programs to help defer the cost of retrofitting the homes? As we heard 2 weeks ago, the cost could be in the tens of thousands. I beg you as council members to educate yourselves first on the entire issue and understand the ramifications of 100% electric before putting laws in place that affect so many. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that didn't have the opportunity to sign in? If so, please state your name.
Clark Edmond, 2 Wilson Street. I'd like to go back a few weeks to discuss the philosophy that the city government of Beacon should be, as the mayor said, hire professionals to advise the government as to the intricacies of governing. And with the professionals comes the slew of consultants. And if one wants to dig into the discussion more, one might want to read the common literature in terms of management of government versus having professionals on the staff versus consultants. The problem with consultants is every time you want to know an answer, you get charged and the meter's running. The problem with a city employee is it's a fixed cost, and while an employee can't be counted on to give absolute allegiance to the overall good of the city, they build a track record of competence. And with that track record comes accountability to the questions and nuances of the peculiarities of government that empower the members of the council to craft opinions and craft advocacy for management decisions of the city government. Otherwise, the firewall lies with the city administrator and the doling out of city taxpayers on every item, and the meter runs, and the meter runs, and the meter runs. A classic example of this fallacy would be the question of electrification. If the city had a full-time planner with the allegiance to the individual members of the council and the city manager, perhaps the question would be, how does the city of Beacon endorse this laudable environmental challenge and act upon this laudable environmental challenge in a way that does not subject the ratepayers in the city to the buying lottery where the electrification rates change with rapidity. I suggest that if there was someone on staff, you would have figured out how to annex part of the mountain back from the state and advocate
15 seconds.
pumped hydro facility, because of all the East Coast, there is not a more attractive site than the Mount Beacon on the other side. And with solar pumping the water back up to the top in the reservoirs and the valleys of the mountain, it would be one of the largest hydro facilities in the East Coast, and city-owned.
Thank you. Okay, next. Please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Erin Ashoka, Ward 2 resident. On behalf of Beacon Climate Action Now, I want to thank and applaud the council for considering and hopefully voting in favor of the electrification law today to ensure that new buildings in Beacon are all electric. So just wanted to thank you for listening to the public, responding to the overwhelming support for this law, and also just address some of the concerns that have been brought up. This is the right time, the grid is ready, it is only new buildings, and although retrofits are not included under this law, there are incredible incentives in place through the IRA that the federal government has recently passed, as well as some state incentives for electrification. So I just want to applaud you for doing your research, listening to the facts, and also responding to the public who overwhelmingly is in support. So thank you for being a leader in the state and crafting a law that other municipalities can learn from and potentially implement as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else in the public like to speak? Is there anyone online, Ben?
If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a comment, please use the raise hand option at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in by phone, please press *9, and you will need to press *6 to unmute once called upon. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll need to join us on Zoom by visiting beaconny.gov. Right now, we have no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, then we'll go now to our public hearing, and we have a public hearing on the proposed renovations and pilot agreement for Tompkins Terrace development. Is Judd on the line?
Yes.
Yes. Judd Siebert from Keenan Bean will kind of give us a brief introduction. Oh, Too late. Judd, thank you.
Yeah, okay, yeah, thank you. The city council has before tonight a proposed resolution that will do two things. First, it will grant a 40-year tax exemption to the Tompkins Terrace property. That property is a 193-unit income-restricted housing development constructed in the 1970s. It has, from its inception, been tax exempt and subject to a pilot that continues in effect. The property is currently poised for acquisition by an affiliate of Related Affordable, an acknowledged and a very reputable provider of affordable and income-restricted housing within the region. The exemption would be for a 40-year period, which is consistent with the time period granted under the private housing finance law. That particular New York State statute empowers the city council to grant an exemption on its own for the purpose of the acquisition of housing by what's known as a housing development fund company. Related Affordable has formed or will form such an entity to acquire Tompkins Terrace. And with that acquisition, the property can remain eligible for a tax exemption. The property will continue after acquisition to be operated in the same manner as it is currently. 38 of the units will be restricted to households that earn no more than 50% of area median income. The remaining 155 units, as they are now, will be limited to households that have annual earnings of no more than 60% of area median income. Those are, on a comparative basis, those are very, very strict income limits in terms of, in essence, really opening up this housing as a broad resource to those with limited incomes. With the 40-year tax exemption, Related or its housing development fund company as the acquiring entity will also look for a pilot agreement. That's also something that's contemplated under the private housing finance law. We have a draft pilot agreement that has been negotiated. There are a couple of mechanical, or I will say technical points that need to be ironed out, but the substantive terms of that agreement have been ironed out and presented to the city council for consideration. The pilot will be for a 40-year period, coextensive with the term of the exemption to be granted. It will restrict or require continued adherence to the affordability standards that I just recited throughout the period of its term. It will give the city enforcement rights in terms of being able to step in and address any breach of either the affordability requirements that are built into the pilot and into the PHFL program. Also to deal with any default in terms of the non-payment of a pilot agreement during the term. The pilot agreements themselves will start at an initial payment of approximately $310,000. That will be a total payment that will be paid and then will be distributed to each of the affected taxing jurisdictions, the city school district, the county, based upon their pro rata share of taxes that would otherwise be levied against the property. That's the way the current pilot operates, and that's the way it will continue to operate in the future. That $310,000 base payment will then be increased at a rate of 2.25% a year over the life of the agreement. That does two things. One, it ensures that there will be a continued growth in the pilot agreement year to year. The current formula that is utilized to compute what an annual pilot payment should be is actually dependent on the particular year operation of the Tompkins Terrace development as a whole. That can really lead to fluctuations up and down in terms of what's paid. The 2.25% increase factor, one, make sure that the pilot payments will increase, and it also gives all of the taxing jurisdictions predictability in terms of knowing in advance what those payments will be, which From a budgeting standpoint is helpful, and also from a tax cap perspective it is helpful, because those pilot payments need to be projected out year to year for tax cap purposes, and to have that certainty is helpful. The agreement, this is not a situation where we're taking a taxable or a rateable property off of the non-exempt portion of the assessment roll and rendering it exempt. This property has been exempt from its inception. This particular acquisition will allow this property to continue to be operated for affordable housing. It will also importantly allow the acquiring entity, the required related affordable entity, to make renovations, both interior and exterior, to the tune of about $14.5 million to improve the property. The ongoing operation of the property remains subject to oversight by New York State through the Division of Housing and Community Renewal. And there are some safeguards in effect through the proposed pilot agreement that will also make sure that the premises are kept and maintained as they have been throughout the life of the term, the 40-year term.
All right. Thanks very much, Judd, for that overview. So would anybody like to speak on this subject? Please, you have up to 5 minutes.
Clark Edmond, 2 Wilson Street. So to return to the opening statement I made, I don't believe the council has been properly advised by outside consultants, because there's no one on staff that has the ability to really digest the intricacies. And if I understood the gentleman just now, I don't think all the intricacies have been settled by his own admission. So I don't know why it would be approved today when the words from the gentleman's mouth was, we're ironing out the details. So a couple of the details that I see as needing ironing would be, it seems to be cancelable on sale, or perhaps cancelable outright at any time without recourse, 1. 2, I'm perplexed because there was this verbiage that said that, okay, this is the amount paid as a set amount of money minus electric cost. I don't know if you caught that sentence in the published documents that have been floating through the council's meeting minutes for a few months. But I distinctly have the impression that that means the electric bill gets reduced, then the government is paid. I just don't have the impression that the council inventoried or queried the tenants that were evicted and harassed 3 years ago from the apartment complex. I don't believe the council availed itself to find those people and surveyed and tried to understand the circumstances by which something like this could have occurred under this jurisdiction of affordable housing. Words are not things. So the question is, what can the council do to use its powers to digest properly the cost? Why does New York State permit 40 years as opposed to HUD recommending 20 years? I could opine, but we needn't talk about negative things, how things happen in government. But here you have a real estate company among the largest in the country, a subsidiary of great distinction. I'll let you decide. But moreover, when you took the office, you took because because you're interested and love the city. And I will say I don't challenge not one of you to your good intentions. But when you dig down and you can't define what makes affordable housing and what is the volume, the velocity, what's the dollar assemblage of money that is saved, and is that the best expenditure to create truly affordable or home ownership of housing? If we're so willing to give a 40-year guarantee, do you think we could give a 5-year guarantee to the most elderly in the community, that they can maybe be assured that they can live in their house and afford to live in their house? Do you think you maybe could figure out how to kind of comparatively look at the market basket of possibilities and not just run to just the biggest and the most powerful? Folks, again, I do not challenge your love or intentions, not one of you. But what I challenge you to is to be better, do better, produce more intelligence, innate
15
understanding
seconds.
is your challenge. You have the purse strings, you have the ability to have intelligent people. There you go, consultants. But this is the only thing you've given yourself for that advice. I
time is
encourage you
lapsed.
to continue the public hearing on the matter and get to the bottom of the electrification issue, the words in the document.
Thank you.
Teresa Kraft. I do not agree with a 40-year contract agreement. This should only be passed as a 20-year pilot agreement, and not, as you state, 40 years. There will be many changes and faces to the city administration and to this private company to see this over 40 years. I would hope to see long-term occupant units upgraded before any newer units are addressed, as they have been recently cosmetically updated. Work on the lower income units first to show good faith. I know you can't tell a property owner what to do with their property, but this agreement is based on its affordable, lower housing for people. Let's not continue to give away the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Yeah, hello, Mayor, I think, and Council, and staff. My name is Vikas Ashoka. I live in Ward 2. I just wanted to make a comment. I'm mostly here tonight for the electrification, all-electric buildings bill, but I do want to make a statement on this because in support of voting for this pilot, but not in support of the situation we find ourselves in here in Beacon with affordable housing. The Related Companies is the same company that is the largest landlord overall and largest owner of luxury rentals in New York City. The CEO, Stephen Ross, doubled his net worth since 2008 and paid no income taxes through the 2010s. He's used his money to help Donald Trump and to defeat progressive New York City council candidates. And he's gotten this rich from getting guaranteed revenue from Section 8 vouchers. He's gotten this rich by getting tax-exempt bond financing from counties like Westchester in 2020, $27 million. Tax breaks from cities like us for renovations that they have the moral responsibility to do anyway. And then when they decide, for whatever reason, to evict their tenants, they utilize our county services that we pay for, like the sheriff, to evict them. Related Companies has a record of aggressively pursuing and evicting tenants. The Right to Counsel New York City Coalition of Tenant Advocates listed them as one of the worst evictors of 2019, with 51 of their 3,000 New York City tenants and lawsuits against 1,600 families over 30 months. They signed an open letter saying that they would pause evictions during the COVID pandemic in the first 3 months and then promptly continued evicting. And I say all this just to communicate that, like, We have to do business with companies that are terrible and tear apart our communities sometimes in order to ensure that we have at least some affordable housing. And so I think that it's important that you all vote yes on this pilot. With that said, we don't have to act like this is a good company or good people who are good for our communities. We can still ask them to change policies to reduce evictions in our community and to protect the people who live here. We can at least make it so that in these public meetings, we're not giving them opportunity after opportunity to share their marketing materials and slick company-sponsored videos on YouTube to applause and celebration. We must find opportunities to call them out in public and show the community here that we support them instead of for-profit companies that gentrify the country. And we have to look for opportunities to find guaranteed housing that is safe, affordable, stable, and healthy. And even though this is our best and only offer on the table for affordable housing currently, I would encourage you all to communicate to the public that it's not the ideal one to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public here would like to speak? Ben, is there anyone online?
No hands raised online.
Okay, so motion to, can I ask for a motion to close this public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
A second?
Second.
Molly made the motion, Dan seconded it. So the public hearing is officially closed.
You have to vote on it.
Oh, sorry.
But I like that style.
My vote
The
doesn't speak for
entrepreneurship
everyone.
here.
No dilly-dallying. Here we go. Okay, so this is a voice vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
To close the.
To close the public hearing.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and
all
then
in-
we'll be voting on it
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all in favor of closing?
Aye.
Anyone in opposition? Nope. Okay. Now it's officially closed.
Yes.
Next, we'll have reports. We'll start with Molly, if she's ready.
Sure, if I can figure out my microphone and my computer. So just a couple of quick things that I wanted to call out. First is that I had the chance to attend at Castle Point, a press conference about the new PACT Act. So PACT stands for Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxins Act. So this is a new federal law that expands VA health care and benefits for veterans who were exposed to burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic substances. So it could potentially, if you yourself were a veteran or know someone who was, it's possible that the things that can be covered have increased under this act, which went into effect the end of last year. If you're interested in finding out more about it, you can either reach out to me or you can go to their website, va.gov/PACT. And the second thing is just to say we'll not be having office hours in March, but you can feel free to reach out to me and connect with me, and I will circle back about office hours in April. And with that, I'll pass it to Justice.
Thanks. Thanks, Molly. I just want to start off by thanking everybody that came to our community quarterly over the weekend. Government works better when we all have a voice and we all participate. And I'm glad that we have opportunities like this to hear from the public and then work on initiatives that the public proposes. So I look forward to seeing where all of the submissions go and what we end up doing from there. This Thursday, there is a Narcan training, a free Narcan training at the Desmond Fish Public Library in the evening, so please feel free to check that out. And I just want to remind folks that April 18th is tax day, and if you make $73,000 or less, you are eligible to file your taxes for free, and you can do so directly through the IRS website, irs.gov. There are links on the website that'll lead you to where you go. But from the website, you can get there. And I don't have any upcoming office hours, and I often don't hold them. However, you can book an appointment with me anytime, well, most times, by going through the city website. Under the city council page, under my name, there's a link that says schedule a meeting, and you can schedule a meeting whenever I'm available. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Paloma, do you want to go next?
Sure. I will echo Justice's thanks for everybody who came and participated in the Community Quarterly's public forum this past weekend. I thought it was a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to continuing that process. To the public, that means that starting this Wednesday, there will be a ballot available online as well as in paper form here at City Hall, at the library, and at the rec center. This ballot will have ideas from the community about ways to community climate initiatives that the city can support. The ideas that have been submitted by the community range from supporting pollinator pathways to riparian zone restoration, that is to protect our waterways, and a whole range of ideas. I hope that you will support your fellow community members who have put forward great ideas and help tell the city what you think is important that we move forward. So those will be available starting this Wednesday. The ballot will be open for 2 weeks. And then the top vote getting ideas will be assigned a council member to help move them forward. And I also wanted to note, a community member pointed out to me that next Friday, March 31st, is Trans Day of Visibility. There are some truly inhumane policies being enacted against the trans community across the country. And I would like to ask, I guess, the mayor and the administrator if there is any possibility of doing perhaps a flag raising on next week. I realize I'm springing this on you, so I don't need an answer at this moment, but wanted to put that idea out there to make sure that our trans community members here in Beacon know that we stand with them and support them. And I'm going to save my thoughts on the pilot agreement and on all other agenda items, including our electrification law, for the main agenda. But I did want to follow up on one related item, which is that we have discussed quite a few times since last summer when Columbia Utility dissolved our community choice aggregation agreement about how the city can best respond. I think that my understanding of what we discussed here was looking into the community distributed distributed generation. I keep wanting that generation word to be in there somewhere. And would love to keep that on the table and to keep that moving forward. I think that's a great direction for the city, but want to keep it in the forefront. This is an item that is related to our electricity grid and building resiliency into our electrical grid. As many people have said, I think the state of our current electrical grid is perfectly functional, and I will say more about that when we get further into the agenda. But having community distributed generation will only increase the health of our electricity grid. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Paloma. And I just wanted to echo that I would love to see that flag raised as well, and anything we can do to make Beacon more welcoming to these communities who continue to be harmed will help. Also wanted to thank everyone for coming out to the Community Quarterly. There were some really, really interesting ideas, and it almost felt like we could do them all. So thanks for that. And as far as office hours, you can schedule with me, wlongno at beaconny.gov anytime. So hit me up there. Thank you.
All right. Firstly, just want to say thank you to the Highway Department and everybody who was out cleaning up last week. everybody made quick work of the snow, and I really appreciate it. I'm from further upstate New York, so whenever I have a real ear for plows going by, and it's like a relaxing sound for me. So they were really working hard. I would just like to make a call for installing level 3 charging in Beacon. The IRA and the infrastructure bill have money for charging for people who aren't electric vehicle users yet. I have been for 2.5 months and have learned a lot about charging. And I learned that the level 2 charging that we have in Beacon is for locals. If we had level 3 charging, that would draw people off of the highway and get them to come to Beacon and to spend money. But level 2 charging isn't the charging that would make someone get off the highway and stop. Right now, we only have level 2. People on the highway are looking for level 3. They'll go right past us and go to the Westridge Center to the Tesla station. So hopefully we can ready some grant applications for level 3 charging in Beacon where it's appropriate. Just a notice to builders, please secure your debris and your materials. This is not the first time, but over the weekend I was walking around picking up after a construction site where the debris was flying up and down Union and Judson. It's not the first time I saw it, and frankly it's something that I see in Beacon a little too often. So hopefully we have good laws in place about builders securing their materials and not making messes for the folks who actually live there and are being forced to clean up after you. So be warned, I have a camera and I take pictures and I send them to Chris. And I just want to echo the
I'll confirm that.
I just want to agree with what Paloma was saying. I read in the Highlands Current that Beacon is not participating in the CCA. It was something that happened sooner than I expected. We had a discussion about this, and it might be the right choice. I think the CDG sounds like a good idea, but I think that the conversation that we had should have been had in public. I asked for it to be in public multiple times, and the decision-making, while there wasn't, I think, a formal vote, it should have happened in public transparently. The public should have known that they had these options and they had a chance to weigh in. And I think everyone at this table should err on the side of transparency going forward, and I don't think we did a very good job on this one. So hopefully we can still have a public discussion. The reason I think it's important particularly about this is because the CCA was so fraught. There were a lot of people who were upset that the city pushed them into a program that they didn't want to be a part of, and then there's a lot of people right now who feel that, you know, something that was really important to them is being pulled out from under them, and we haven't discussed what's replacing it. Thank you.
I have just 2 short things. I too wanted to thank the Highway Department for all the work they did. I happened to be driving, unfortunately, from Newark Airport back to Beacon around midnight till 3 in the morning, the night of that storm. And all the way up to the border of Beacon, it was pure hell. But when we entered Beacon, it was as if it had never snowed. So I was pretty proud I had 4 people in the car, and they were like, wow. So anyhow, they did a great job. And but secondly, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Drew Gammels, who has served the city of Beacon for, I think, 6 years?
6 years, yeah.
6 years, and it's been a real honor to work with you, and I think I can speak for the entire council here and the mayor that it's your personality, your wisdom has greatly aided Beacon and everything we're trying to do, so it's from our heart.
Thank you
we'll
so
miss
much.
you. Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure. I'm going to miss you guys a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you've afforded.
And Drew,
Beet red.
Drew isn't going that far. She's going to work for Riverkeeper, so she'll turn her passion towards other great work.
Yes.
Well, the environment will benefit from your expertise and wisdom.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.
Chris, do you have anything to say?
The mayor probably should go.
Right.
I can be very brief. Just I am remote. I've just been doing some traveling, and I'm just grateful, George, for your help. I just want to say thank you, Drew, for your work, and that's it.
Good luck on your new position, Drew. And I just want to remind people our community investment grant program is open till April 7th. That's up. We have $20,000 allocated for nonprofit groups to apply for, and you can do so online. If you just search City of Beacon bids or City of Beacon proposals, it'll take you to our page. And that's all I've got.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll move on to local laws and resolutions. First resolution is approving the appointment of Samuel Dendrade to the position of Water and Sewer Maintenance Helper. Chris?
Yes, so we discussed these all 2 weeks ago, if you remember, past the snow. Sam has been with us in our wastewater treatment plant since April 2015. We had a position open that we created in the 2023 budget. We interviewed candidates, and Sam was the best fit for the new position. So this will be appointing him to move from wastewater to our water department.
Okay. And now a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion.
Motion. Motion by Justice, second by Ren. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone in opposition? Okay, resolution passed. Second resolution is approving the reappointment of Richard Markwalter to the Tree Advisory Committee.
So if you want to do the motion and the second first, then we do the discussion.
Got it.
Great.
Okay, can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Paloma, second by Dan. Okay.
And this is a reappointment to the tree committee. Richard goes by Paul and has been the chair of the tree committee for a while. He doesn't want to be the chair anymore, but he does want to remain on the committee. So we have his reappointment.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Resolution passed. Third resolution, approving a real property exemption and payment in lieu of taxes pilot agreement for Tompkins Terrace.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you.
And George, Judson is still on if there's any questions
Okay.
directly for him.
Does anybody have any further questions?
Yeah, I had a question. You made mention of this, Judd, that there's still some open things. Can you just clarify if we're able to vote on it today, if there are still things being decided, and how that works from a
No.
legal perspective?
Yeah, the open items relate strictly to the mechanics of transitioning off of the existing pilot and into the new pilot, and how the apportionment, if necessary, will be done so that, you know, we transition smoothly from one pilot income stream to the other. That's really, that's the, as I mentioned, it's mechanics, it's technical. The substantive terms have all been agreed to.
Thank you.
Judd, could you also address an issue that was brought up by one of the speakers about the electric costs being deducted from the tax?
Yes, so I think that's a misread of perhaps my memo to the board. Currently, under the current pilot agreement that will be replaced by this one, the annual pilot payments are based upon a 10%, 10% of what's known as so-called shelter rent. That's a term that's defined in New York State statute. It's defined by New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal. And shelter rent is basically taking all of the, income that is received through the affordable housing, and then backing out expenses, including electricity, to come up with a net number. And that net number, you apply 10% to that now, and that's what the city gets in pilot revenue every year. That's being completely displaced under the new pilot scheme, which, as I said, will be a fixed number beginning in year one, and will increase at a rate of 2.25% annually through the term of the pilot. So there's no impact in terms of electricity with regard to the new pilot scheme. The pilot revenue that's going to be paid to the city is a liquidated sum, as stated in my memo and as set forth in the pilot agreement, year to year.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Judd, for the allocation, you mentioned that it's the city, the school district, and the county. I just wanted to make sure I didn't hear you say the library, so I just wanted to make sure.
I'm sorry, and the library, yes, all four. And that's a function that when the pilot payment is received, that will really be a Susan Tucker or whoever is in city finance at the time. It's just a function of taking all of the tax rates then in effect that would otherwise be applied to come up with, the amount of real property taxes that would otherwise be levied against the property, and it's just a fractional allocation. She does it now for the current pilot.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak a little bit to some of the most common comments we've got about how do we as a city council know that we are getting the best financial deal, knowing that the parent company of Related Affordable is the large, very open, for-profit corporation that it is. And that is one of my concerns. As soon as it was brought to me, this idea that no, it's not going to be the county's IDA that's going to determine this pilot's going to be us, and that gives us more control, and I see the benefits of it. One of my concerns was one of the ones been raised about, oh, how do I know that I'm getting the right input, as that's not my area of expertise. And so I appreciate all the thoughts and comments around that, because I do think that is important, and it is possible there might have been a path where we could have had a different financial deal than the one we're being asked to vote on today. And at the same time, I had an opportunity to talk to several residents of Tompkins Terrace as I went around a couple weeks ago, and they all were aware of the renovation being proposed. They all seemed in favor of it, didn't even have any questions about it, and so I feel like Related Affordable has done a good job, at least so far, of keeping them informed. I've also had an opportunity to talk to many people related to Related Affordable and to the foundation that's also provided some of the services that are there for the residents, and they also seem willing to lean in and support. So that, combined with the fact that if I think my job here is both fiduciary responsibility generally, but also supporting Ward 1 residents, that they're in support of this, and this will be a benefit to them. Both the immediate renovation and the 40-year pilot makes me feel like this is a good deal for the residents right now, even if I also agree with the larger systemic issues of affordable housing and how are we going to address them. So I appreciate all those who provided their thoughts and hope that we continue to look for ways we can provide more humane and affordable housing to all of Beacon's residents.
Anybody else?
I think I have two, would also like to address some things that were raised in public comment. One is that I want to acknowledge that this council has had an open question about how exactly we define affordability. I look forward to continuing these broader conversations about housing affordability and look forward to honing in on what we really mean when we say that. Having said that, the affordability of the housing in Tompkins Terrace, that it is largely either under Section 8 or 60 or 50% of area median income, I think fairly squarely fits at least my definition of affordability. And for that reason, I am supportive of this type of housing and this type of agreement. Having said that, I also had the really tragic experience earlier this month of doing what I could to help out somebody who was being evicted from Tompkins Terrace. This seems to be a perfectly legal eviction, but if you will remember the very active conversations we were having almost exactly a year ago about the detrimental effects of evictions on families and individuals, the ways in which ripping somebody out of their home and their community has lasting effects for that individual as well as the community that they live in. I hope to have future conversations and ongoing conversations with this council and with the management company at Related to make sure that if evictions are happening, they're done in the most humane way possible. And I recognize that evictions are a necessary part of how private property works. But I look forward to continuing to work with the community to try and support the people who live here in ways that we can. Recognize that this is not a perfect scenario, but that this will do much more good for the community than not. So thank you.
I'll chime in too. I don't love that this is the only option that we have right now, but I am glad that we have a council that is committed to figuring out what affordable housing looks like and how to expand that in the city of Beacon. And if something like this can lock in some semblance of affordability for the residents that are there now and potential residents to come for decades, then I'm ready to move forward with it reluctantly. But again, I look forward to figuring out stronger, equitable solutions and seeing where this council goes.
We've had, in the last year, we've had 2 pilots, where they were the 2 first that I've encountered and voted on, and what I've learned is my measure for a pilot is going to be that the project gives a substantial public benefit. And I think we made a mistake with Craig House. I think the school district handled the Craig House pilot better than we did. But I look at this project and I think, 40 years of affordable housing at percentages of average median income that I don't know how else we could have achieved, and I support this pilot because of it.
So, if I could say something, I would only note that Tompkins Terrace has been in place for 40 years and has served the community well. I believe that this renovation will serve the community further well, and I'm supportive.
Okay, well, it seems like we're ready to vote. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone
I believe
opposed?
we actually need to hear you, not just the...
Aye.
Thank you.
And any opposition? Okay, resolution passed.
Sorry, just as it, now that it's passed with us, I'm wondering if we could hear from Justin just a bit for the residents who might be listening, what next steps are, if you happen to know that right now. I don't want to put you on the spot if you're like, I don't know it, but just to give them a general sense of where it goes from here. Sorry, George.
Thank you for your support of the project. To just address the question at hand, next steps is we will move forward with the IDA with an application. We'll get that formally submitted to the executive director over there, Sarah Lee, and we'll simultaneously be working on a tax credit application. As I wrote to you, one of the only ways of financing one of these renovations of this scale all at once is to rely on the low-income housing tax credit program, which is made available through the state. So we'll be submitting that application as well. Those 2 applications go through extensive review. There'll be a public TEFRA meeting. We'll be meeting with the residents as well over the next 1 to 2 months. And we hope to close on the new financing in late May, early June.
Thank you.
And just for context, that person who just spoke on your TV is Justin Glenda from Related Affordable, and they're going to an IDA for the tax-exempt bonds, which are the next piece. So we do the pilot, but they're still going to the IDA, and they're still going to go through another level of review.
Okay, moving on. Next resolution is approving DMS Consolidators Limited for 2021 tax cert settlements. I think Judd is gonna.
You should still be on.
Yeah, I'm not muted, right?
Nope.
You're on.
Yeah, good, great. This particular set of, this particular tax certiorari case, coupled with the next one, your next agenda item, 30 Beekman LLC, contests the DMS case contests the 2021 assessments of 7 individual condominium units in the View. The 30 Beekman thing, and I'm jumping ahead, but the next resolution involves an additional 7 units in that condominium development contesting their 2022 assessments. The issue in both cases involves what condition were these condominium units in on what's known as the taxable status date. Taxable status date is under New York state law. That's the date at which the assessor, on behalf of the city, has to look at a particular piece of property and value it as of that particular date based on its condition and its use. And the assessment is based solely on its condition and use as of that specific date. The issue in this case is that the various units involved in both cases were still under construction. And while they ultimately, or some have ultimately sold, the question was, as of that taxable status date, were they in a position to command, full market value? Kathy Martin inspected these units. We've been in front of the Supreme Court, Dutchess County, Judge Brands now on this case, on the first case for almost a couple of years. We've come to numbers that we feel and Kathy feels are representative of the condition of those particular units as of taxable status date. And that's the basis for the settlement of DMS and also for the next, the case involved in the next resolution, 30 Beekman LLC.
Okay. Could I have a motion?
I'm just doing a motion for DMS consolidation, is that right?
Yes, just for this resolution.
Yeah, motion for, motion?
Second, a second? Please.
Second.
From Paloma. Okay, any discussion?
And just something that comes up for me when we do these tax certiorari things is how nice it must be to have enough money to hire lawyers who can challenge your taxes, and that the average family doesn't have that. And the average family can come in and talk to the assessment board, but they're most often shooed away and they don't have the backup legal power. So it would be nice to know if there was anything that we could do in the upcoming budget to make an attorney available to, maybe that's a conflict of interest because it's gone against the city's tax assessment, but I wish there was something that we could do for everybody, because every time we vote on one of these, sure, on the details it's accurate and I'm going to vote yes, but it just shows you kind of like there's never an individual or a family when we're doing these,
George, I just want to clarify that we don't just shoo people away. We have a board that's comprised of a board of assessment of people that have been in this business for many years. In some cases, one of the guys has been on for 15 years. There are often times where somebody comes in and has a mitigating circumstance and that's adjusted. To make a statement that they're just shooed away is not true. Well, it's not correct at all. And we have a professional assessor. We actually are down to these last 2 cases. The final one got dismissed, so we've been doing a really good job of evaluating the cost of things.
Chris is right. The shooing away was a term that was used to me, and I shouldn't have repeated it. But I have spoken to people who were told, like, oh, you should just be thankful your house is worth so much now. So.
Well, I would actually like to also just support the process of the Board of Assessment review. It is actually pretty easy to do. I think they're pretty open to receive folks. Most of the people who go there are just homeowners, and I think it's pretty okay from what I could tell. The other thing is, and I encourage people this all the time, you can see the assessments of every adjacent property to yours and to know whether it's reasonable and fair by going onto Dutchess County Parcel Access. And a lot of people have done that and kind of realize, okay, looks about right, or sometimes it doesn't. And that is the process, and it is one that is available to all. I will say that, going to court for your taxes is something that people with deep pockets can do and people with shallow pockets cannot. What that means is that the thing that you can do to best support small taxpayers is by keeping our assessments at 100% of full value, and doing that every year, which is what we've been doing for almost 20 years now. The number of cases dropped to nothing, basically, very, very few. I mean, this particular one, there was a good reason for it, which was these properties went to full value before they were fully sold or fully built out. You know, that actually is a pretty legitimate reason. But I said, if you want to avoid the situation where the small guy is kind of not getting as fair a break, the way to do it is to stay at full value, do it every year, and do what we've been doing. And again, it also minimizes the number of cases that we have.
Just to clarify for anyone listening, just really plainly, the Board of Assessment Review meets once a year, and all residents can challenge their, I'm reading this right off of the website, their tax assessments. There are 5 members, and they serve 5-year terms. And I've heard from friends who have taken their assessment and done as the mayor said, and put it all on a spreadsheet and taken it to the board and had positive experiences with that. I haven't ever experienced it myself, but just so that everyone knows, there is a process, and if you have any concerns about your assessment, please do go through the process.
Okay, anybody else? All right, can we have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone in opposition? No, resolution passes. Next resolution, approving 30 Beekman Street LLC.
Motion.
Second.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Can I? Perfect. Okay, approving 30 Beekman Street LLC, 2022 tax cert settlement. Judd, do you want to clarify this one?
And again, I kind of gave you the preview before. It's the same set of circumstances. It's the same condominium complex. It's just a different set of units. And as the mayor said, it's a function of just capturing value maybe a little earlier than we should have, because those units were not in fully saleable or fully constructed condition as of taxable status date.
Okay, any questions? Any discussion? Seeing as there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
No opposition. Resolution passes. Sixth resolution, accepting fire hydrant easement agreements at 29 Riding Ridge Trail and 30 Riding Ridge Trail. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion
Second.
Molly, second Paloma. Drew.
Yeah. So there is a fire hydrant right in between 29 Riding Ridge Trail and 30 Riding Ridge Trail. The resolution in your packet authorizes the city to enter into 2 easement agreements, one with 29 Riding Ridge Trail and one with 30 Riding Ridge Trail, to maintain that fire hydrant and, install a new one if necessary, to make sure that it's properly operated, serviced, repaired, so you have access to go onto the properties to deal with the fire hydrant and any accessory equipment there too.
So the city owns the fire hydrant?
Yes.
But we didn't have full rights to go in and fix it. I figured that one out. So we're remedying that.
And this is in the polo fields, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, any discussion or questions? No discussion. We'll have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone in opposition? No. Resolution passes. Seventh resolution, approving an amendment to the 2023 general fund budget. Chris?
Yes. So just a reminder, this is going to be a roll call vote. This is to move $40,615 out of contingency into storm drain repair. Some of you know, and we discussed at workshop, we have a sinkhole on West Main, and it's caused by a storm water pipe that's beginning to collapse. What this does is it allows us to slip line that with a structurally sufficient material so that we can rebuild that road and not have it continue to collapse, and we can continue to have that stormwater pipe operate and stay open. So we didn't know we were going to have this repair. Dan had asked 2 weeks ago for me to send around an updated status of the contingency, and we're well within, I mean, we've barely touched our contingency.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. It was much more than I actually asked for. I just wanted to know if we could have the balances of the contingency fund off to the right on the memo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You don't like my spreadsheets?
But I do
with
like
the-
your spreadsheet as well.
Okay, good.
So I think we have to do a motion, which I failed to do.
Motion.
Yes.
Second.
All right.
And then we'll do a roll
Now-
call.
And then we'll do discussion, if we want to discuss. Anyone, questions or discussion regarding this? No?
Should we add a report a sinkhole to the website now? Since we have a report a pothole?
Well, we knew about the sinkhole, it's the potholes that we need help in finding.
Very good.
But that is a good reminder. Here's a little advertisement. You can report a pothole through our website. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody recently was on the website and was very excited about that feature and let me know.
Yeah, we've already had 2 for this year, so.
Okay, we're ready to vote. All in favor?
You're going to do a roll call.
Roll call.
Oh, sorry. Roll call.
Yes, so you go
Oh,
through.
we're doing both of these
Yeah.
roll call. Okay, great. Sorry. Roll call, Molly?
Aye.
Justice?
Aye.
I vote aye.
I vote aye.
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 Mayor?
Lee?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Resolution passes. This too will be a roll call, but can I have, this is the 8th resolution adopting proposed local law number 1 to require the electrification of residential and commercial buildings. Can I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Second, okay. Discussion.
I had a question about, it came up today in public comments, come other places, about the description of the local law and how it does not include major renovation, but the law itself does. And I'm wondering legally what the precedent is and just getting your opinion on
Yeah,
that.
so legally, because the description doesn't say major renovations, that doesn't have any impact on the adoption ability of this local law. It's just supposed to provide a very quick description to indicate what is this law going to be about. The most important part is what actually is in the law itself. For example, when we do other laws, what's when we do a lot? Stop signs, usually it might just say, concerning stop signs without giving a description about what street it's on. Sometimes we'll be more specific if there's a bunch of stop signs or different traffic things in the law, but it's just supposed to be a very quick description to indicate what that law is going to be about very quickly.
Thank you.
Yeah, no legal implication.
Well, I guess I would just like to thank my fellow councilmen, persons, Paloma and Dan, for bringing this to our attention. I'd also like to thank, as I did earlier, all the people that have come out in support of this over the months and have generated interest and educated some of us and the public as well. I think we should all be proud of this. In my 14 years on the council, I think this is one of the more significant votes that I've had the opportunity to participate in. So let's hope that we can lead by example and that other communities follow soon behind us.
Yeah, if I can add just a couple of things. I don't think we know all the answers. Actually, I think the approach that we've taken is actually a good one and an appropriate one. Because you don't have all the answers, you can do a Google search and find almost anything. So this is a hard area to know. I think it was appropriate for us to hang our hats on the state's 445-page document and to say the state has committed to its aggressive climate goals. They put out a roadmap, and the primary thing we're doing here is we're picking up the first couple of major steps in the state's roadmap, which is new construction, residential and commercial, and then moving those ahead somewhat of the state's goals. And I think that is a highly defensible approach. It doesn't answer everything. It doesn't answer, what will happen with our electric grid, whether our local utility will raise prices, or other issues like that. We do have an out clause, which is a hardship clause. We did the same exemptions that the state did in their report in terms of what things come earlier in terms of new construction. I think that's the right approach, and I think it also provides a model to other communities who also will struggle with the same issues, and instead of having to litigate them all in every community, is just to look at the state's plans and say, I trust the state, they did a very thorough project, they haven't adopted yet, we'd like them to adopt it, and if we could, we'd like local communities to have the ability, just like the Stretch Energy Code the state did a couple of years ago, to adopt it earlier. And by doing that, it makes our job a lot easier, and it also provides a model to many, many, many other communities, which is what I'm hoping will happen.
And just so everyone knows, we have to file this law with the State Code Council. There's a form that has to go with the local law, so we have that prepared, and we'll get that filed this week. Also, with respect to the hardship process before the Zoning Board of Appeals, I am preparing a PowerPoint presentation to pass on to the next associate who will be taking over the ZBA so that he can present it to them. So we'll keep them informed and up to date and well trained on the hardship.
Thank you.
Yeah, a little bit on that theme of making sure there's training for this particular piece of the law, and thank you for putting that together. One thing that I've been thinking a lot about, and I think that might address some of the concerns that we heard tonight, and maybe some that I've heard over the many months, is an information campaign of sorts. There are quite a few incentives on the state and federal level to defray some of these upfront costs for folks, and want to make sure that people in Beacon are getting their money's worth as they move forward with these sorts of renovations. I also want to note that this law works in tandem with the New York State Stretch Code and is part of our building code. So it's not just about electrification; it's also about energy efficiency overall, making sure that our constructions are well insulated and well built. And so since we're doing those things in tandem, the ultimate load on the electrical grid will be defrayed by us taking a comprehensive look at what our buildings look like in Beacon. And those are my thoughts for now.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Molly?
Aye.
Justice?
Aye.
I vote aye.
I vote aye.
I vote yay.
Okay. Well,
Mayor?
Lee?
Mayor.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous. I think we should be proud of ourselves. Okay, we have one more opportunity for public comments. So anyone that has not spoken earlier this evening has the opportunity to speak up to 3 minutes regarding anything.
George, we have to approve the minutes, or one would hope we approve the minutes.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry, before that, we'll have the approval of minutes from February 27th, 2023. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second. No,
Over there.
Ren,
Ren.
second. Any questions, any concerns, any edits?
I didn't actually find anything I have any concerns, but.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone oppose? Nope. Minutes have passed. All right, now we have the second opportunity for public comment. So anyone who has not spoken is welcome to speak now. Up to 3 minutes. Please just come up and state your name.
Hi, my name's Mark Torrey. I've just been thinking about this a lot. Are we really doing this? Everyone is completely not questioning this law, this electrification law. I mean, this is just, there's no opposing voices. This is just insanity. No one knows what the impact will be on our electrical grid. No one knows, okay? Nobody here knows. Nobody here has spoken to anyone at Central Hudson or Con Ed or anyone who knows anything about energy. This is absolute insanity. What happens when there's an ice storm? Okay, everyone is on electric power, great, nice for the environment. What happens when there's an ice storm in January and no one has heat? Okay, because the grid is out. The grid is shaky as it is, okay? I mean, this is just absolute insanity. Natural gas was part of a diverse, logical energy infrastructure, and then all of a sudden, in the last few months, it's become the devil. And this is just, it's absolute insanity that nobody is questioning this. I mean, nobody here has any sort of, analytical ability? This is lunacy. Our grid cannot accommodate this. Has anyone done the math? Okay, what's the math? I've watched the debates on television where the public comments. No one has introduced math into this. Okay, what's going to be the impact? How taxing will this be on the electrical grid? I've heard nothing. It's all, climate change. Yeah, that's all well and good, but people, have to survive the winter. Okay, so I don't know. I just think this is absolute lunacy, and the fact that everyone just says yes, and this is all a great idea. I think you're all nuts.
I know who you are, but please state your name.
Absolutely, King George. Dennis Pavlak, Beacon. I'm here tonight to discuss emergency preparedness, something that has not been realized or even imagined at this council's last couple of years. It has been 24 years, and I believe we are no closer to being ready for the unexpected than we were 24 years ago and prior to that. However, there was a preparedness committee formed in early 2000s, and I was appointed on that committee. It was nothing more than a knee-jerk reaction to my concerns that I had, and it had not what it was intended. The committee was not intended to, it had a purpose intended, was supposed to be give the residents direction and dialogue to residents and input on how to get our city online for the unexpected, whether it be a man-made weather or other related incidents, even a virus. And like I said, and whoever doesn't know this, the town of Fishkill had an emergency preparedness meeting a couple of months ago. I attended that meeting at the last minute. And the guy that ran the meeting only said information that people wanted to hear and not told the people what they should hear. I've been saying that for that comment, the way I said that, for the last 25 years at this council. And I think it's appalling not to have it on the agenda and go over what we should be going over. Because whoever doesn't know it, after these commuter trains go to bed at night, toxic chemicals are riding through your backyards on these trains in these neighborhoods. And a lot of people at that meeting, when I stood up and I said it, a lot of people were not aware of that. And if you don't believe me, ask the people of East Palestine, Ohio. Ask them how their drinking water is. Ask them how their breathing is. Ask them how their sores on their inside their mouth is. Their sores, their body, their aches and pains. Ask them. Somebody ask them, because it's appalling we have not addressed that. Have a good rest of your night.
Hi there, my name is Tara Vamos. I actually live in Cold Spring, New York, but I'm a member of BCAN, and I've frequently found work, etc., in the wonderful city of Beacon. I'm glad to be a neighbor of Beacon. I wanted to thank the City Council for passing the gas ban on new construction, and I also just wanted to address what was said earlier. One of the reasons why I'm so excited about this gas ban is that it will actually decrease stress on the grid in the short term. Currently, the grid is more stressed during the summer. That is the time that the grid is more prone to brownouts, and heat pumps actually use about a fifth of the energy for cooling that air conditioners do. So we will actually be reducing the load short term at the point at which all construction, including already existing buildings, are switched over to heat pumps. We will indeed need to have increased our electricity production. And New York State has an agency called NYISO, which is just focused on assessing the needs of the grid, which change over time, have changed over time, and they are laser focused, and it is their only charge to figure out what are the needs of New York State in terms of electricity, how we can plan for them, how we can meet them, and they say that we can accommodate electrification. It is an ongoing process, as it always, has been. The city of Beacon, when it was established, did not have electricity to all of its buildings. Having adequate electricity is an ongoing process, and happily, switching over to heat pumps for heating and cooling will not affect that. And also, sadly, when the power is out, people's gas furnaces don't work either. So just to thank you guys very, very much for passing this bill. It's essential for moving us forward. Thank you.
Ben, is there anyone online that would like to speak?
No hands raised online.
Okay. Well, that seems to conclude this part of the evening.
So you need a motion to adjourn the meeting, and then we'll go into our workshop, and we'll stay on the same Zoom.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the public meeting, the public comment meeting,
Second.
voting meeting.
The meeting.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone oppose? Okay, so now we will segue into our workshop.
Yes, so we have 4 appointments for you to look at that are in the packet. The 4th was an addition today. We weren't sure if we were going to have that person's materials by then. We have Larry Clark for the Recreation Committee, Heidi Kitlis for the Recreation Committee, Haley Richardson for Recreation Committee, and Donna Francis to the Planning Board. Resumes and applications are in your packets, with the one exception of a retired person who didn't have that, and what we've done is Ben just interviews them now and does a memo to you. So if there's any questions, Ben knows a lot more about this than I do, and
Thank you,
is
Ben.
readily available in the ether. Any questions on these?
Happy to talk about any of the candidates. I won't belabor the, the materials you already have in front of you, but as Chris did say, I spoke to Larry, Mr. Clark, on the phone, got some information about his background. He also came highly recommended by our Recreation Director, Mark Price, for reappointment. As for the other 2 Recreation Committee applicants, Mark also reviewed their materials and gave them the stamp of approval. And as for Ms. Francis, for the Planning Board, we do have a vacancy upcoming for the next meeting, and we're trying to get that filled before the beginning of next month. We had a number of candidates and ultimately went with Ms. Francis.
I can speak, I know the person leaving the planning board is a friend of mine, and I also know Donna, who's a friend of mine, and I think she'll be a a great addition to the board.
Yeah, she was actually recommended by Jill, who's leaving the board.
Right.
Well, I mean, I know Donna, I mean, she's been involved in this stuff, and she really understands it very well, and I'm glad to see her on the planning board, for sure.
Okay, and next we have a request. There's a private road within the Craig House property that was called Craig House Lane, and we've had a request to rename that Mirabou Lane, and Drew is going to help us with that, I think.
Yeah, but I don't have much. They checked with, wow, I'm sorry, I'm yelling into that. They checked with 911 services, did all the steps. Once the change happens, it'll get sent to the Postmaster General to make sure that the mailing all goes correctly. So now it's in the City Council's hand whether or not you approve this change. Again, it is for a private road. There is no other conflicting Mirabou Lane that would be an issue, and all entities that are required to be notified have been notified or are going to be notified upon adoption.
Can you say a little bit more, Drew, about, because this is on a private property and a private road, why we as city council are being asked to approve the name? Is it to do with emergency services, or because it's going on official maps, or how that works?
It's because, it is going to emergency services, but that's not why the city council is involved so much in the approval. It's because it goes on official maps, so it was approved with the Craig Lane. So now all those maps have to be changed, and so part of the original, part of the Craig Lane was, that name was associated with that original approval, so now it has to be formally updated, which requires city council approval.
And if Mirabou sold to somebody else, are we going to rename it after the next corporation that buys the property? I mean,
They can make the request, and it would be your decision to say.
I'm inclined to vote against corporatizing the street names.
Craig House was the name of a company. So this is like...
To be fair, I don't think Dan voted on Craig House.
Yeah, I don't think he was here, but just some perspective sometimes is helpful.
Does this have any cost to the city? Like, are we paying for a new Mirabou sign? No, great.
And we did this across the street. You may remember we named the lane that runs through University Settlement Camps because we needed better clarity on the numbers on that lane. Again, I didn't see any, I don't know.
It's not uncommon.
I'm ambivalent to this.
Yeah, my question was Molly's. If it's a private road, I'm not sure why it's up to us other than as a reference point.
We are changing the name of a private road, so it is on official maps.
Right.
Otherwise, people could just, any little road they had, they could change the name of.
Right, anytime they want it, and
I mean, they'll probably still refer to it as the Craig House property for a long time, but...
Beacon residents definitely will, yes. And emergency services, I hope they know when people are calling, but then they say the old Craig House property, they know.
Yeah, they'll know.
Yeah, but...
Like the Cuomo Bridge, always the tap.
Oh, don't start.
I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. My apologies.
And the last item is a LoSAP award for those that you have been on council. Every year we need to certify who has done credit hours towards LoSAP. LoSAP is a length of service award program for volunteer firefighters, and it basically awards them $100 retirement, a monthly retirement of $100 for every 5 years that they are in the program, up to 20 years. As part of that, you have to certify to the comptroller that people actually work that. So you have the hours in there. We will have that certified for the next meeting. We are having Gary fill out a form that'll go in this. And you'll see some of them have maxed out. That means they already got the 20 years that they needed. But you'll also see we didn't have a lot of volunteers. We're down to 10 volunteers, and we're hoping once the new fire station is up and running that we can really do some new recruitment.
And LoSAP is governed by the general municipal law. It is a state program where it authorizes the city to establish a point system on what volunteers have to do to qualify to get points towards their LoSAP services.
Do they get to use their credits when they officially leave the service, or how does that work?
Upon becoming 62.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if someone says active on here, but not yet entitled, that means they have yet to hit that 100-hour threshold?
It means they have yet to hit a vesting.
The vesting.
Where they have the 5 full years. So you can earn partial years.
And, you know, it requires you not just to sign up for a day, you have to do certain services.
I mean, for a first-year firefighter, they have to undertake 120 hours of training. And that right there is why we're having such trouble getting people that have an extra 120 hours to contribute just to training. And then that's all we had. We had a light agenda. We'll have a light voting meeting next week, but you will have an executive session for personnel about something that I sent around, and we're really excited about that and look forward to you meeting the newest member of our executive team.
I know, too, that when this meeting was going to be just a workshop, we had talking about affordable housing, and I appreciate given everything else we had, we did not necessarily want to do that this meeting, but I just wanted to request that if it could be added to the next workshop.
We
if
do
we
have John
capacity.
Clark lined up for April 3rd.
Okay, great.
This meeting was supposed to include the leaf blower law, so is that on the next workshop?
We can put that on the 3rd.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Dan, I have prepared the leaf blower law and the EAF Part 1, so it is in the queue, ready to go, even though I'm not going to be here. So
Thank you.
It's ready.
You're welcome to still come.
You might see me in the audience.
Drew really wanted to do it tonight, but we weren't. We had no idea how long this meeting would go, and
I did push a little bit, but it's ready when you guys are ready.
you're ready.
Just won't be me presenting it.
Well, thank you for your work on it, Drew.
Absolutely.
And thanks for all your service to the city, and good luck tomorrow for your last zoning board of
Yes,
appeals
last time
meeting.
anyone wants
And
my last training session there.
we look forward to great things from Riverkeeper.
Thank you very much.
She's leaving because they have a boat. You know, that's the reality.
I do
We
get
don't
to
have
go
a
on the
boat.
We have a lot of
They do. They have a
vehicles.
boat.
Guess we have to get a boat.
What are we going to do with the boat?
She gets to go around and see
No, what will the
pollution.
city do with
See
the boat?
Do we need a motion
We
to
need a
adjourn?
motion.
Drew,
Yes.
Yes. Motion to close the
workshop.
Motion, second?
Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nope.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Recording stop.